Okay, so good evening to all of you. Today we are going to deal with the second part of GK. We have completed one part. So we will start from the important innovation. Is it visible clearly to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So some of the important innovations which we have to read, sometimes they ask, I mean, in the match of the following, something like that. So atom bomb was developed by Robert Oppenheimer in 1945. Airplane was developed by the White brother Wilbur White and Orville White in 1903. You don't have to remember the years. I have put this year just to, I mean, get an idea to easily remember. But at least you have some idea about this. I'm not saying to learn by heart all those things, but just read one two time. If a question might come, then you can do it. Circulation of blood come by William Harvey, I mean in 1628. Diesel engine by Rudolph Diesel. Dynamite by Alfred Nobel. Gramophone by Thomas Edison. Insulin by Sir Frederick Banting. Lightning conductor by Benjamin Franklin. So can anyone tell anything more about Benjamin Franklin? Have anyone have read his contribution in American Revolution? Okay, okay. So Benjamin Franklin was a part of the American Revolution movement, and he has contributed in Constitution frame, and later he also hold important post in American democracy. Next is light bulb, which is uh, innovated by Thomas Edison. Microphone and telephone both were by Alexander Graham Bell. Printing press by Johns Gutenberg. This person has done a very revolutionary work by I mean innovating this printing press, which was a wooden printing press that time. Polio vaccine by Edward Salk, Johns Edward Salk. Periodic table by Dmitry Mendeleev. Most of the thing we might have heard about in our graduation or 11 12 time. Penicillin by Alexander Fleming. Refrigerator by William Cullen. Radio by Guglielmo Marconi. I think some French word or some other. It is not an English word. Richter scale by Charles Richter. And modern thermometer, which we see the glass one with mercury. It is developed by Daniel Fahrenheit in 1709. Theory of evolution is given by Charles Darwin. World Wide Web was the idea of Tim Berners-Lee with Robert Galileo. A Xerox machine by Chester Carlson. I have left some space to add some few more. So I will, when I will send you, might be I will update you. Now we will look some regional organization which plays important role in international relations, specifically in South Asia. So BIMSTEC is one of them. Its full form is Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. Is a regional multilateral organization. So its full form is the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. So its member lies in a littoral and adjacent areas of Bay of Bengal. So those members of this group BIMSTEC are mainly which countries are close to the Bay of Bengal. I mean touching the Bay of Bengal Sea or just close to that. So the sub-regional organization came into being in 1997 through the Bangkok Declaration. So can anyone tell where is this place Bangkok? Bangkok is in which
Sir,
country?
Thailand.
Okay.
It's a
So
Thailand.
seven members of BIMSTEC. BIMSTEC is a seven-member group, and these seven members are Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and Thailand. So these are the seven members. So these five members from South Asia, and these Myanmar and Thailand from Southeast Asia. So previously there was a question on ASEAN that they have given four names and asked that which is the not member of ASEAN or which is the member of ASEAN, something like that. So they might ask same for the BIMSTEC. So that's why I mean we have to remember their member name, and it would be easy if we will remember through the Bay of Bengal river, the countries which are closer to the Bay of Bengal or near to the Bay of Bengal. So first is Sri Lanka, second is India, third is Bangladesh, fourth Myanmar and Thailand, and next two are Bhutan and Nepal. So these seven are, so they are basically a it is a kind of economic cooperation organization, as well as technology they are sharing with each other. And India is also making a road from here Manipur to Thailand, something like that. So there is a project going on. Next is SARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, its full form, and it was established in 1985 on 8th December in Dhaka by SARC Charter in Dhaka. So the idea of regional South Asia was first in November 1980 after consultation the foreign secretaries of seven founding countries. So in during that time there was seven countries. Later, I mean Afghanistan added in that. So the countries are Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Afghanistan became its part in 2005. So all the South Asian countries are the member of SARC, and its headquarters is in Kathmandu, Nepal. So here you can see the all the member countries of SARC. So Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. So all the eight countries. Next is North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is NATO. One there was a question that which kind of organization is NATO. So like we have read, BIMSTEC is a kind of economical cooperation and technology sharing organization. SARC is a kind of also economical cooperation as well as security related organization, in which I mean we respect each other territorial integrity, and we will cooperate in the security issues. So something like that is the SARC. So NATO is a kind of military alliance which established in the year 1949. Also North Atlantic Treaty, also known as Washington Treaty. So they basically formed with USA, Canada, and Western European nation to provide collective security against Soviet Union, because Soviet Union was the leading the Eastern Bloc, and it was a communist country. So during that time, and they are the capitalist country. So after World War II, there was a Cold War period, and which Soviet Union was challenging the dominance of these countries. So during that time, this NATO alliance was formed. So there are currently 30 members in this, and its headquarters is Brussels, Belgium. And it came through the Marshall Plan. Marshall Plan was the launched by United States to rebuild the Western Europe countries which were engaged in the Second World War. So you can here see the members of the NATO. And recently, one of the region of the conflict of between Ukraine and Russia. Here you can see my cursor that I am. This place is Ukraine, which is not part of NATO, and this is Russia. So between them there was this bone of contention regarding this NATO. I mean Ukraine wanted to become a NATO member, and Russia was opposing that. Russia don't want a NATO member country on its border. So one of the reason of the conflict is also this between Russia and Ukraine. Now we will read the terminologies. Sometime this kind of question come like one year it was a question like who studied this political this results electoral results what we called them. Can anyone tell what is the word for who studies the electoral this electoral facts and what trends are going on? What is the single word for that? Political analyst kind of who read the elections. There was another question like what is the study of tissue? So it is the histology. So there were two questions like that in previous 4 years. So we will read this main terminology. So first is ornithology. Ornithology is a branch of zoology dealing with the study of birds. Next is physiology. Physiology is the study of how the human body works. Next is pedology, the science that studies the genesis, nature, distribution, and use potentially of soil resources. So basically, pedology is the study of soil resources. Anatomy, study of internal structure of organism. Next is agrology, soil science dealing specifically with the production of crops. Orthology is the study of joints. Joints basically it's orthology. These bone joints. Apiculture is the rearing of honeybee for the honey. Next is anthropology is the study of origin, development and relation between the culture of the past and present human. So anthropology we will study the how the human originated, developed and what is relation between the culture past and present. That is anthropology. Then anthology is the study of flower and flowering plant. Then clone is a genetically identical individuals in a population, so whose genetics are the same. We have if you people have read that in England nearly more than 10 years back they have made a goat of a same clone using the same genetically identical I mean same genetics information using. Cardiology is the study of heart. Then demography, which is the study of population. Dermatology, study of skin. Dendrochronology, we use to count the age of trees by reading the rings, which are used to, I mean, as tree grow, I mean, number of rings increase in trees. Embryology is it is the study of fertilization and development of zygote. Ethology is the study of animal behavior. Entomology is the study of insects. Floriculture is the cultivation of plants for their flower. Gynecology is the study of female reproductive organ. Gerontology is the study of aging. I mean for old people who are growing old. Histology is the study of tissue with the help of microscope. So this term was there in 2021 histology. Hydroponics is the study of growing plant with soil in water with contain nutrient. I mean growing plant without using the soil. I mean a hydroponic plant we can see they put the plant in water with nutrients. Hematology is the study of blood. So some of things you can relate from what you heard in day-to-day life. Hepatology is the study of liver. Ichthyology is the study of fishes. Calology is the study of human beauty. Morphology is the study of external structure. A few more are there. Like mycology is the study of fungi. So this was also there in option when study of tissue was asked. This mycology was also was there in option in four options. So mycology is the study of fungi. Nephrology is the study of kidney. Odontology is the study of teeth and gum. Osteology is the study of bones. Oncology is the study of cancer and tumors. Ophthalmology is the study of eyes. Pathology is the study of we go to the pathologist when we become sick for checking what kind of problem we are having. Psychology is study of human mind and behavior. Pisciculture is for the rearing of fishes. Phycology is the study of algae, this green algae, blue algae, what we see. Serology is study of serum, interaction of antigen antibodies in blood, serology. Physiotherapy is the treatment of body defects through massage and exercise. Psephology, that's what I was asking. They call the psephology, which study and analyze the elections and balloting. What people, putting vote, on ballot, that is balloting. Study of quantitative analysis of election and balloting. So you might have heard all these things, some of them at least in your day-to-day life, but you have to go through all this so you have a clear idea if they ask in next this coming exam. Now we will read briefly about the Indian economy. So India is the world's second largest populated country after China, and it is world's fifth largest economy by nominal GDP. So GDP are two types. One is real GDP, another is nominal GDP. I'm not going to detail in GDP thing, but for nominal GDP, India's rank is fifth. And for the purchasing power parity (PPP), India's rank is third. So what is this PPP, purchasing power parity? It is basically that how much humans have capacity to buy. In we know in America dollars value is equal to 79 rupees, but in America from $1 you can afford only one apple, but in India on the same amount, the $1 or 79 rupees, you can afford more than one apple, two apple, three apple, or even 1 kg of apple. So that's how we will look the purchasing power parity. How much capacity our currency have to buy. So in that India is on the third rank. Next is according to International Monetary Fund on per capita income basis. India ranked 142nd on GDP. Per capita क्या है per person. When we will look this economy on per person basis because India has a huge population. जब हम per person पे लाते हैं तो इंडिया का कंडीशन यहाँ पे खराब हो जाता है. Like it ranks 142nd in all 193 countries and in 128 in GDP purchasing power parity PPP per capita. जब हम per person देखते हैं तो India's condition is not looking that good as it is looking here overall. So in 2011, about 50% of India's working population was engaged in agriculture. So still most of the, half of the population is engaged with agriculture. And what is the share of agriculture? So primary sector, if we will look in agriculture and allied, as well as in primary sector, we also count the mining. So total it's contribute to 21.82%. It is the data of financial year 2020 and 2021. Secondary sector, which is the industrial sector, its contribution is 24%, and tertiary sector, which is the service sector, its contribution is nearly 54%. So basically If you, I mean, this is during the COVID period, financial year 20 and 21. It is a COVID period. But if you will look the normal situation, tertiary sectors is nearly 58 and 59%. Secondary sector is nearly 23%, and primary sector, agriculture and allied is nearly 18%. But during COVID time, this I mean, service sector became down, and this sector contributed, I mean, increased. So here in this chart you can see there is agriculture 20%, industry 25.92%. So they put the mining here, and their service sector, the financial, real estate, all those things, transport, communication, public administration, defense, and others. So all these are service sector. Now we will look the fiscal policy and monetary policy. So there was a question on monetary policy, that who decides the monetary policy in our country. So can anyone tell who decide the monetary policy in our country?
Sir,
RBI.
RBI, Reserve Bank of
Yes,
India.
RBI, Reserve Bank of India, decide the monetary policy. So in our country as well as in other countries also, monetary policies are mainly decided by the central bank of those countries. And who decide the fiscal policy?
Union
Sorry?
government. Union
Yes,
government.
fiscal policy is decided by the governments, and specifically the Ministry of Finance and other committees which are found for that purpose. So fiscal policies deal by the government, specifically Ministry of Finance, and monetary policies by the Reserve Bank of India. So we will also read here that there is also a separate committee for even monetary policy. So government uses both monetary and fiscal policy to meet the country's economic object, whatever any country having their economic object. So fiscal policy in India is the guiding force that helps government decide how much money it should spend. So here it is telling what is the basically fiscal policy. So fiscal policy is basically deciding that how much money it should spend to support the economic activity. I mean, talking about budget where we should spend, and how much revenue it must earn. I mean, talking about the taxation, I mean, where how much tax we will put from the system to keep the wheels of the economy running smoothly. तो कितना हमें कहाँ स्पेंड करना चाहिए एंड कहाँ से हमें कितना टैक्स लेना चाहिए. These are the basically part of fiscal policy. The government of a country controls the flow of tax revenue, public expenditure to navigate the economy. Same thing it is telling here. Now we will come to the monetary policy. So the central bank of a country mainly administer monetary policy. In India, monetary policy is under Reserve Bank of India or RBI. तो मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी का क्या मेजर वर्क होता है? टू डील विद द मनी, करेंसी एंड इंटरेस्ट रेट. तो पोजीशन ऑफ मनी, इट्स करेंसी एंड इट्स इंटरेस्ट रेट, एंड एज वेल एज इन्फ्लेशन, to maintain the inflation rate, I mean, in our country. Generally the central bank control the supply of money, कि कितना मनी सप्लाई होगा पब्लिक प्लेस में इन द इकोनॉमी. इट्स कंट्रोल ओवर इंटरेस्ट रेट, और कितना इंटरेस्ट रेट बैंक लगाएगा ये भी डिसाइड कौन करता है. मिनिमम कितना इंटरेस्ट होना चाहिए, मैक्सिमम कितना, ये भी बैंक आरबीआई ही डिसाइड करता है. इन ऑर्डर टू मेंटेन प्राइस स्टेबिलिटी. प्राइस स्टेबिलिटी मीन्स महंगाई ज़्यादा बढ़ने ना दिया जाए, आई मीन टू कंट्रोल द इन्फ्लेशन बेसिकली, एंड अचीव हाई इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ. और हाई इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ को अचीव करना, इट इज़ द बेसिक टारगेट. Now we will move to the Monetary Policy Committee of RBI. So amendment of RBI Act. So you know RBI Act came in 1934, and when RBI is established,
1935.
in the year of 1935,
1935.
RBI is established. So there is a some target, that inflation target, which is known as, so inflation target in our country is 4% plus minus 2%. I mean that inflation maximum go to the 6%, and minimum should remain at least 2%. So this is the inflation target in our country. If a question come on that, you can select that 4% plus minus 2%. Here you can see, to be set by the government of India in consultation with the Reserve Bank of India once in every 5 years. So they basically, this is set up by the government with consultation of Reserve Bank every 5 years, that what should be the inflation target. So under the section 45ZB amendment of RBI Act 1934, central government is empowered to constitute six-member monetary policy. So monetary policy committee have six members. So they basically work to control the inflation, shall determine the policy required to achieve the inflation target. So the decision of monetary policy shall be binding on the bank. So they basically have to work this monetary policy committee in our country. First thing is to control the inflation rate. Whatever it is the target, it is decided by the government with consultation of RBI. So they have to stick with that. And second thing is their work is to decide and make the policy, and which would be binding to the all the banks in our country. So what is the composition? What are the six members? So RBI governor is its ex officio chairman. Like in Niti Aayog, Prime Minister is the ex officio chairman. Same way, RBI governor is the ex officio chairman of the Monetary Policy Committee. Deputy governor is in charge of monetary policy. So deputy governor basically deals with the whole monetary policy thing as a in charge. An officer of the bank to be nominated by central board. So their RBI is a central board body, can nominate another person from their side, and three persons should be appointed by the central government. So three are from the RBI side and three are from the central government side. So three members which are appointed by central government, who has the specific knowledge, special knowledge regarding these things. So they are the part of that. So is anyone having any doubt till yet? सभी को सब समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now we will move ahead and we will read about the financial institutions in India. So basically there was a question asked in 2020, I think they asked that where is the headquarter of SEBI, Security and Exchange Board of India, where is it headquarter? So its headquarter in Mumbai, Maharashtra. So other important financial institutions are listed here. So we will also read about those institutions. So if a similar kind of question or something related to that come, so we can easily deal with that. So RBI, Reserve Bank of India, which established in 1st April 1935, and whose chairman or governor is Sri Shakti Kanta Das, which is chairman, and its headquarters is in Mumbai, Maharashtra. Next is NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, and you don't have to remember their year as well as who is the current chairman. That is not more important. Where is its headquarters? That is important, which is in Mumbai, Maharashtra. You have to just read through this. You don't have to remember. You have to remember just for this RBI, their establishment, their chairman, and their headquarters. Rest just read institution and their headquarters. SIDBI, which is a kind of a small industrial development bank of India, and whose headquarters in Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. Exim Bank, Exim Bank basically work is that आप लोगों ने देखा होगा, you people have seen that India is giving the line of credit, a kind of loan to our neighboring country like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, or any other countries. So these loans are given by these Exim banks. If anyone, this, if government is giving loan to the neighboring or another country, it is through the Exim Bank they are giving. So its headquarters is in Mumbai, Maharashtra. Then comes SEBI, Security and Exchange Board of India. Its headquarters is in Mumbai, Maharashtra. Next comes the LIC, Life Insurance Corporation. Its headquarters is in Mumbai, Maharashtra. So most of you can see its headquarters is in Mumbai, Maharashtra. Mumbai. SIDBI is the only which is having in headquarters in Lucknow in important institutions. There are some other important institutions which we will read here. NPCI. We will read about NPCI in detail in next slide. Its headquarters is in Mumbai. EPFO, Employment Provident Fund Organization. So there is a organization EPFO which basically works. We know that if anyone doing government job, they have to put some of their money in these kind of EPFO fund. So in the end, they should, I mean, government also contribute some amount, and when they retire, they get a good amount of money. So that is the EPFO where they put the, I mean, employment provident fund, and its headquarters is in New Delhi. SBI, the largest government bank in our country, whose chairman is Dinesh Kumar Khara, and its headquarters is in also Mumbai. Next is PNB, Punjab National Bank, the oldest one of the oldest bank. So SBI was established in 1921. Basically, there were some banks which merged and framed a bank which name was Imperial Bank of India. Later, their name was renamed in 1950. Near 1950, I think their name was renamed, and after that, we put the name State Bank of India. Its headquarters is in Mumbai. PNB is the one of the oldest established by the our freedom fighter Lala Lajpat Rai, and another person was there. So in 1894, and its headquarters is in Delhi. So you can see most of the in Mumbai, some are in Delhi, and this SIDBI is in Lucknow. So you have to remember these things. So NPCI is important to read because NPCI is the organization National Payment Corporation of India, which is we हमने आप लोगों ने रुपए कार्ड देखा है. गवर्नमेंट इज प्रोवाइडिंग रुपए कार्ड.
Yes, sir.
और यूपीआई भी देखा होगा आप लोगों ने. यूपीआई जो हम यूज़ करते हैं डे टू डे लाइफ में अमाउंट ट्रांसफ़र करने के लिए. तो
Yes, sir. Online
yeah, exactly. So who is actually framing or making these things? So that is NPCI, which is the organization which is making these things, National Payment Corporation of India. Its headquarters is in Mumbai, and you don't have to remember there who is their chairman or MD. You can, if you want, you can read it, but it is not that much important, I think. If question will come, they will ask that what is the basic work of NPCI. So NPCI is a umbrella organization for retail payment system in India. इसने क्या क्या इंट्रोड्यूस किया इंडिया में? यूपीआई, यूएसएसडी, भीम ऐप वी ऑल यूज, भारत क्यूआर कोड, आईएमपीएस इंस्टेंट मनी ट्रांसफर सिस्टम, नेशनल फाइनेंशियल स्विच, सीटीएस, बीबीपीएस, रुपे कार्ड, नैस, एईपीएस. So all these things are created by the National Payment Corporation of India, and it was established in the year December 2008, and it basically certifies the businesses which started after the April 2009. NPCI was set up with the guidance and support of RBI and IBA, Reserve Bank of India, and Indian Banks Association. It is started with their support. NPCI has successfully completed the major project of developing a domestic card payment. So this RuPay is the one of the major project, big project for the NPCI, which is now completely completed. Earlier we using the MasterCard and Visa card. That was not, I mean, developed in our own country. But the RuPay is belong from our own country. It is developed by NPCI. And presently there are 10 core promoter banks which are supporting the NPCI. We don't have to go through that. We have to just know that there is something like that. Next is we will read through these some trophies like Ranji Trophy, Sayyid Mustaq Ali Trophy, Vijay Hazare Trophy, and Duleep Trophy. So these are the important trophies. We will go through that also because regularly question came through these trophies. तो कोई बता सकता है रणजी ट्रॉफी बेसिकली किस फॉर्मेट का मैच टूर्नामेंट कराता है?
स्टेट क्रिकेट।
Cricket.
नहीं, फॉर्मेट क्या है? 2020
फर्स्ट
ओडीआई टेस्ट मैच?
फर्स्ट मैच।
Test match.
हाँ,
Test
तो
match.
रणजी ट्रॉफी इज द फॉर यूजिंग द फर्स्ट क्लास फॉर्मेट. फर्स्ट क्लास फॉर्मेट मीन्स any match which is happening 3 day or in more days, so that is the first class. So Ranji Trophy is a domestic first class cricket championship played in India between multiple teams representing regional and state cricket association. So basically there are 38 teams, 28 from states and 4 of the 8 union territories having at least one representation. So by this there are 38 teams, and the competition is named after the first Indian cricketer who played international cricket, that is Ranjit Singh ji. He is also known as Ranji, and he played from the British side. He was in the England cricket team. And who is the current champion? One time they asked that who is the current champion of Ranji Trophy. So we know that Mumbai is the one of the highest one of the best team of the Ranji Trophy, and 41 times they have won the Ranji Trophy. But this year in a final match, Madhya Pradesh has defeated the Mumbai team, and Madhya Pradesh is winning first time. So it is something we have to know that. So that's why it is important to remember the Madhya Pradesh state name for the current champion and for the Ranji Trophy. And this happened recently, 2-3 days back. Next is Vijay Hazare Trophy. And also remember the format. Ranji Trophy is the test match format or first class match, first class cricket match. Next is Vijay Hazare. Vijay Hazare was also a very famous Indian player. Also it is known as Ranji One Day Trophy. Was started in the year 2002 and 3 with limited over cricket domestic competition, and all the teams of Ranji Trophy participate in that, and it is named after the legendary Indian cricket Vijay Hazare, and current champion is Himachal Pradesh. Himachal Pradesh is current champion of Vijay Hazare Trophy. Next we will move to the Sayyid Mustaq Ali Trophy. Sayyid Mustaq Ali was one of the prominent player of his time, and he was the first person who scored a century outside of India. Against England he scored I think 118 or 19, something like that. So he was the first player from Indian side, Sayyid Mustaq Ali. He belongs to the Madhya Pradesh. So the Sayyid Mustaq Ali is a domestic 2020 and its format is 2020. So Ranji was the test match, and Vijay Hazare was the one day, and Mustaq Ali is the 2020. And all those Ranji Trophy team also participate in it. And the current champion of the Sayyid Mustaq Ali Trophy is Tamil Nadu, and Tamil Nadu is one of the most successful team getting this trophy. So Tamil Nadu is the current champion. Next we will move to the Duleep Trophy. So Duleep Singh ji was also relative of the Ranjit Singh ji. Both were there, in close family relative like Chacha Bhatija kind of relationship, and both were the good player. So Duleep Trophy is also a domestic first class cricket, means it is also a test test format. tournament, and their originally contested team representing the geographical zone. So there was like uh, East India, West India, North India, South India, Central India. So something like that team was framed. Now these teams were get the color like India red, India blue, India green, something like that. So current champion is the India red team. Now we will read some interesting thing which only belongs to India. We all know Taj Mahal, but there are also many more things than Taj Mahal, which is very interesting for our country. Majoli Island, where is this? And this was asked in previous year.
Assam.
Assam.
Okay, can anyone say any more and more information related this Majoli Island?
It's a, yeah, Brahmaputra rivers.
Okay, it is
Situated
situated
in
on
Brahmaputra river,
Brahmaputra and
largest island inhabited
okay,
island.
largest inhabited island in the world. Okay, good, good, good. So you people have basic understanding. So Majuli is the biggest inhabited riverine island in the world, located on the river Brahmaputra in the state of Assam. So first island district, and it is also a district, whole district. Majuli is independent district, and it is India's first island district, and it has 144 village and population is over more than 1,50,000. I mean significant population is also on that island. Earlier it was 1200 square kilometer, but due to soil erosion and excessive soil erosion, now it's shrunk to the 500 square kilometer. So you can see that, I mean, uh, more than two times it shrunk. It is the nerve center of Neo-Vaishnavid culture. I mean, Vaishnavid culture is very popular in that district, and it has been included in tentative list of World Heritage Site. Currently, it is on the tentative list of World Heritage Site by UNESCO. India is demanding to make it as a one of the World Heritage Site. So here you can see the location. There is the Majuli Island. So this is the Brahmaputra river. You can see it is going through like that in the state of Assam. So here this one, you can see this yellow one. These are the whole part of Majuli Island, and these are the Subhasiri River and this Kherkatia Suti River. Okay, so next is the can anyone tell where is the largest rainfall happens on the world? On which place?
Kanchikal.
Huh?
Kunchikal.
Which place?
In Meghalaya, Kunchikal.
There is a place in Meghalaya which is known as the wettest place of the world. I mean because the highest number of rainfall happening there. So we will read about that in next slide. So that places are the two important places, Cherrapunji and Mohsin Ram. So these both places are very close, nearly 20-meter distance. If you will look on geography, under the 20 kilometer, Cherrapunji and Mohsin Ram. So these both are the one of the wettest place in the world. Mohsin Ram is the even a little more having rainfall than Cherrapunji. So you can see their elevation 1313 meter and 1400 meter elevation, and they are on the Khasi river, sorry, Khasi hill. So there are three very famous, I mean, hills you can see in Meghalaya. One is Garo, then Khasi, then Jaintia from west to east. Khasi, Garo, Khasi, and Jaintia. So it is on the Khasi hill. So Meghalaya is a mountain state with numerous valleys and highland plateaus, and their elevation is also differing from 150 to nearly 1900 meters. So the rainfall in Cherrapunji and Mochinram is caused by the orography favoring a monsoon wind regime. Orography is related with the mountains, study of mountains. So the condition of mountains is something like that, as well as monsoon wind. That's why they are getting the highest, I mean, this rainfall, and their rainfall is the more than 1000 centimeter. Normally in UP, the rainfall is nearly 100, between 90 to 110 centimeter. Every year it fluctuates some between in that in our Uttar Pradesh, and so you can expect that the rain which we, I mean, witness in our the North India in UP, Bihar, Delhi region, and the compare the 1000 centimeter with more than 1000 centimeter. So something like that. So you can see their location in this map. So this is the Cherrapunji, and somewhere near it there is a place Mochinram. This is the Meghalaya. Can anyone tell where is the capital of Meghalaya?
Sir,
Sir,
Shillong.
Shillong.
शिलोंग. उमंग गोट रिवर के बारे में आप लोगों ने सुना है?
No, sir.
उमंग गोत रिवर नहीं सुना? Okay. So this is the last slide, and we will read this river Umangot. So this is a river which is in also in Meghalaya, and it is popularly known as Dawaki River. And Umangot River in Meghalaya is undisputedly, means कोई इसमें doubt नहीं है, the cleanest river in Asia with its crystal clear water. I will also show you pictures. Just wait. Cleanest river in whole Asia with its crystal clear water. It originates from eastern Shillong Peak, which is located 18 meter above sea level. So it also enters in the river Mawalyonog something. I'm not able to pronunciate it properly. It's in their local language, which names as God's own garden, and it is the one of the cleanest city of Meghalaya. So it passed through that. This river passed through that place, and this is a famous tourist site there. And it acts as natural divide between the Jaintia and Khasi hills. As I have told that there are three famous hills there, Garo, Khasi and Jaintia. So it also divides the Khasi hill from the Jaintia hill, and after that it enters into the Bangladesh. Now you can see picture here. Yeah. So you can see people are here floating, and their shadow is visible in here in the uh, this ground of the this river base. So this is the something. It is really beautiful. You people should go and do Google and see some more picture. It is really interesting to see this. So here, I mean, we have completed the, yes.
Sir, sir, is there any fine in this on this river if we dirty polluted this?
I mean, there they are the system mechanism which they are stopping people to pollute. Uh, I mean, why people will pollute if tourists will go? They will already, I mean, uh, getting disclaimer that how to, I mean, clean that whole this surrounding of river. So, is anyone having any doubt?